and the educational needs and the environmental needs of our schools. These shifts, these changes require the development of planned responses. The master plan, the facilities master plan, is the way in which we plan a course together. So I'd like to give an overview of the facilities master planning process. You start with identifying the planning team, mapping out the process. And this is just a Reader's Digest distillation, if you will, of a very involved process. You also evaluate facilities. That's actually the purpose of tonight's meeting, is we're going to present a process for your consideration about evaluating facilities. You vision. You need to be able to identify where you want to go. Begin with the end in mind so that you can chart a course to get there. You analyze the gaps between where you are now and where you want to go, and that helps you then identify the solutions. I start to develop solutions to address those gaps so that you can begin to build that roadmap for future facilities decision making. And then finally, you adopt the plan and an implementation. So to recap, tonight's presentation is going to be about how do we achieve those two goals that you set at the two action items at your last meeting. Number one, to conduct a study of all your surveys to identify need, condition, challenges. Two, how do we educate the public about the need to address our facilities issues? And the answer to that is through a community engagement evaluation process. The purpose of this process is to provide a rock-solid foundation for the development of a master plan. And there are a number of goals that you'll want to achieve. Obviously, you're going to want to involve the community. You'll want to dovetail with your existing PACT process. You'll want to work with the existing committees that have already been doing some ongoing planning work. You'll want to create a comprehensive review. Any educational facility review needs to be comprehensive. It needs to look at both the educational adequacy and the physical needs. It needs to be based upon best practices. It needs to involve the input from leaders in the field, from experts. So I'd like to look at some of these a little closer. Why is it important to involve the community? Well, first of all, districts that have multiple facilities like yours in a variety of ages are faced with so many different challenges, different questions. What should we do? Should we renovate this? Should we build new? Does it make sense to renovate an existing newer building when we've got greater needs in our old building? The issues are so numerous, it paralyzes. It paralyzes a school district. By involving the community, developing a collective vision, you begin to overcome the inertia to developing a plan. To uncover opportunities and identify effective paths, we worked with one school community where after just a couple meetings, we were able to uncover that everybody had the same idea of the solution on their mind that they felt passionately about. But it took working with the community to uncover that. And that's important so that we develop the plan that the community will support. To complete a rigorous review that stands up to public scrutiny. As you move forward with this process, you'll have put together a plan. You'll be presenting it to the community. Communities all have people of different opinions, different persuasions, different agendas. There will be people who, for reasons unbeknown to you, will not want to follow, will not want to be persuaded that what you have developed is the best idea, and they will have good questions. You need to have done your homework with the community so that you develop the information so it can stand up to a rigorous review to which the public is entitled. And finally, Dan Burns with Unicom always talks about schools are always in the business of obtaining public permission. We could develop the most effective, the most value-driven, the most intelligent plan for the future. But until the community provides permission to implement it, it's not of value to you. We need to involve the community so that you can move forward and implement your plans. In terms of the educational adequacy, we have to have a rigorous review because, you know, a new pole barn is great for storing pool chemicals, but it makes a lousy school. And for you to have any effective review, you really have to evaluate how each facility functions as a school. How well does it allow your teachers to teach? You know, the one-size-fits-all classroom of the established in 1888, still in use today, has been, people understand that the one-size-fits-all classroom isn't the best way to teach. Students learn in different ways in a variety of settings using a variety of learning modalities. And so how well does our building allow us to instruct the way we want to? We'll have to review capacity and utilization as part of an educational adequacy assessment, changing demographics and proximity to the student population, educational program delivery. If you're operating the middle school program, how well does this facility support the middle school program? If you're working with small learning academies at the high school, again, how well does it inhibit or support that program? And then support resources, things like technology, access to media, those sorts of things. You will also need to conduct a physical needs review, and this is the obvious thing. This is as you walk through the building, you can see the cracks in the wall or the leaks from the ceiling, but understanding how our structure and our systems are operating, understanding our operating and maintenance costs, energy efficiency, safety and security, and technology. You want this plan to be based on best practices. In the introduction, it mentioned that I belong to the Council of Educational Facility Planners International. I'm going to refer to them now as CEFPI because it's just too long to say. They are the group that I describe as having written the Bible about school design. They are a collection of the best minds around the world who come together and debate best practices, share best practices in school design. They have put together an evaluation tool, which is the subject of tonight's work, and that's the tool that we are suggesting that you consider using in conducting your educational evaluation. It's called a Guide for School Facility Appraisal. So we've gone over some of the goals. Let's review the proposed process. Architects love graphics, you may or may not know, and so we put graphics together to represent this planning process. We've shown it to be a 6-step process moving from left to right on the screen. The first step is where we develop standards and evaluation criteria and outline the process. The second step is where we gather information. The third and fourth steps are the building level meetings. The fifth step is when we perform cost-benefit analysis, and the final step is when you develop the report. Let's talk about each of these steps in a little more detail. The very first steps where we develop standards. We want to apply a consistent evaluation across all of our facilities, so we recommend that you develop standards against which all buildings can be compared. Things like, what should the size of our classrooms, our kindergarten classrooms be? What amenities, what program areas should our music practice facilities include? How about our athletic facilities, our science facilities? Standards that allow us to compare existing schools objectively. The second thing that we'll do is develop an evaluation criteria. I mentioned the CEFPI criteria, which you have at your table. It evaluates buildings in 6 categories. The first category being building safety and security, understanding issues like how we get out of the building, these exit lights, these emergency lights. Are there multiple entrances to the building that would allow an intruder in easily? The second category is educational adequacy. That has to do with how well we have, what size classrooms and educational opportunities are scattered throughout the building. Can we teach the way we want to teach? The educational environment condition says, do we get natural daylight in our buildings? Are our buildings friendly? Are they inviting? Are our acoustics good or are they bad? The school setting has to do with the school site, how well the site, the site accommodates traffic flow. Is it dangerous? Is it smooth and efficient? What are the ingress and egress of the sites adequate? Does the site drain well? Structural mechanical features have to do with the building systems, like the mechanical ventilation system here, and the age and condition of those systems. And plant maintainability has to do with the consequences of the initial choices of materials and systems. Some materials and systems last forever. Some require constant maintenance. The second step in the process is information gathering. We like to say you must diagnose before you can prescribe. The information gathering will be in the process that we propose that you consider will be performed by a team of experts. We would suggest that as you move forward, that you would use your local architect